Today, I am joined by one of my favourite Aston Villa fans going, the ESPN host and analyst, Luis Miguel Echegaray. Luis, it's great to have you on once again.
An absolute pleasure, Frankie. I love all Villa, no filler. Give me more of it, baby.
I promise I didn't pay to have you say that. Villa have been very active in the transfer window yet again. Both Jhon Durán and Alex Moreno have arrived, while Danny Ings and Morgan Sanson are two of the bigger names that have gone. Today, Jan Bednarek has also been sent back to Southampton. Luis, with it being such an active transfer window, what have you made of it so far?
Everything that I expected, Frankie, to be quite honest with you. You and I, very big fans, and obviously the majority of the fan base as well, since Unai Emery came in and decided to do his little mini revolution. And it's no surprise to me that he's gone to work. Anybody that read the excellent piece by John Percy from the Telegraph can see like how much work he puts in before he even puts a step into Villa Park. So I knew that the first transfer window, the very first opportunity that he was able to maneuver a few things, he was going to do it because, you know, Unai Emery, more so than a manager, is an absolute professor of tactics, and he wants to make sure he has the right personnel to do so. Now, obviously, when he joined Villa, that wasn't his squad. Granted, there's a lot of players that he likes, of course, and surely he's going to develop. But I knew that as soon as January came in, a few things, at least objectives, were going to happen. Whether they actually ultimately, you know, arrive through the doors, that's one thing to discuss. But it's not surprise to me that, you know, with all due respect, and for a lack of a better phrase, he's basically getting rid of that deadwood, that personnel that he knows that he's not going to be able to work with. All respect to the players that have worn the shirt and represented Villa, but it's clear that Villa, Unai Emery has one objective, Frankie, and that's let's get the Unai Emery team on the pitch as soon as possible.
Yeah, it definitely feels like that, doesn't it? It feels like we definitely have a manager who has a clarity of vision, which is a refreshing change to what we've previously had before. You know, Villa squad, you know, with the outgoings we've had, we probably need another centre-back if Bednarek's gone, a striker. We don't seem to have many wingers, maybe even a backup goalkeeper. Are you expecting Villa to strengthen in all of those areas over the next week, or just a few of them?
No, yeah, my expectations from January, and that was before Duran came in through the door, I expected at least three. At least three. Alex Moreno not included in that now because Alex Moreno obviously came in. Now Jhon Durán has come in as well. So I'm expecting actually, because of also the outgoings that you mentioned, Morgan Sanson's out, you know, Gilbert as well, you know, Bednarek returning to Southampton, you know, and other outgoings and injuries as well, frankly, because it's important to remember, even though Bednarek is gone, returning to Southampton, Diego Carlos is still, you know, I would say mid-February, at least to see any kind of full training from him. And then obviously Courtney House, who returned from Watford, who's still away as well. So we need all this personnel. I want three more, Frankie. I'm going to be totally honest with you. I want three more. And I'm being very selfish. I said it on Twitter already as a Peruvian. I want Alex Callens to just come on over. He's a free agent. He's Peru's most important defender. He won MLS with NYCFC. Just bring it on a free. Give him a year contract and see what happens. But we definitely need another center back. I mean, Guendouzi, if that happens, I'm going to be so ecstatic. And I think possibly one more attacking midfielder. I'm not sure about the extent of Deulofeu's injury that happened at Udinese this weekend, but I'm expecting three, at the very least three more. It's going to be a very busy week for Aston Villa Football Club, I think.
Yeah, well, make Alex Callen happen, because I will be straight to your Twitter page just to see the reaction when he turns up with the smiling Johan Langer holding that Villa shirt.
I'll explode, Frankie. I'll explode if that happens.
I'll be good viewing, I'll tell you. But you know, the Matteo Guendouzi link, that's the one that doesn't seem to be going away, and it seems to be gaining some momentum. Do you think it could happen in the next week? And if it does, what do you think he could bring to Aston Villa?
Let's answer the first part of that. I've been so confused by this one in terms of like whether it will happen or not. One, because I thought initially, look, Guendouzi at the age that he is, he's enjoying his football in his native France. And I thought just because of, of how Ligue 1 is structured, Olympique de Marseille has a good, obviously opportunity always to have some European competition almost directly at this point ahead of Aston Villa in a much more competitive Premier League. That's one. Number two, obviously, because of all the reports we were hearing, first, the interest was there, but it didn't seem like Guendouzi wanted to leave Marseille just yet, despite the relationship that he has with Unai Emery. And now we're reading that perhaps that's changing, and I believe that my good friend Fabrizio Romano reported how Marseille are already being busy in the transfer window. Perhaps that's more ammunition, in anticipation of Guendouzi's exit. So at this point, I'm like 50-50. Before I was 20-80 that he wasn't coming. Now I'm 50-50 because of just, of all that we've just been discussing. Now, the other part of it, this would be a tremendous acquisition, I think, because he ticks all the boxes. He's more creative than the majority of our midfielders. I'm including Emiliano Buendia. He has already an experience in England. He knows Unai Emery. And the important thing to remember is that, Unai Emery, he doesn't care about positions as much as he cares about attacking space. So, when you have the likes of Ollie Watkins, and good for him to get that goal this past weekend, will do wonders for his confidence. And then Leon Bailey on the other side. We've also seen, by the way, Emiliano Buendia support Ollie Watkins. So I'm seeing just this fortification of the midfield that can support the strikers. And Guendouzi takes every single box. I would be very excited if this happened.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. And I also sort of remember him at Arsenal having a little bit of bite, a little bit of a nasty streak as an outfield player. And I think that with Villa, we probably have that in Emi Martinez as somebody who, is capable of winding up opposition fans and opposition players. But outfield, I think maybe somebody like Guendouzi could also add that sort of winning bite outfield as well. So I'd like yourself, I think I'd be very excited if it came off. And like you as well, I've gone from 2080 thinking it won't happen to now being like, oh, maybe. So we'll keep an eye on that one for sure. But one player we have signed is Jhon Durán, MLS, Chicago Fire. Is there anything you can really tell us about him? He's probably not a player too many Villa fans are all that familiar with.
Well, first of all, well done on how you said his name there, Frankie. Excellent stuff. For those that don't know, I think he'll be okay if you call him Jhon Durán. That's fine. But in Colombia and specifically South America, imagine that's a Y sometimes, so it can be Jhon. Also, most often than not, Spanish speakers say his middle name as well, because obviously my name is Luis Miguel, but people call me Luis. That's fine. But in Spanish, for example, if my aunt or my grandmother's angry with me, she'll be like, Luis Miguel Echegaray. So in Spanish, most of the time we say Jhon Durán, the whole thing, but Jhon Durán is fine. Jhon Durán is fine. Okay, listen, this kid there's an effective meaning of symbolism when he replaced Radamel Falcao in the senior team last year in a friendly. That says a lot about who he is. At 19 years old, he is a big project of Colombia's national team. Already, they had to take him out of the South America in the 20s. He might not play. Again, that's up to Villa, of course, but he's a massive part of Colombia's setup. That's one. Number two, he comes from Envigado in Colombia, which has a ridiculous resume of talent like James Rodriguez, Juanfer Quintero, all these players that have come from there. And in Chicago Fire, many Chicago Fire fans tell me, and obviously from the knowledge that I extensively know about MLS and my friends that work on it day in, day out, specifically Chicago, from the moment he arrived to the moment that he left, the development has been ridiculous. So he's a very fast learner. And at 19 years old, he's quick, he's big, he's good in the air. And I think, like Unai Emery said, this is a project for him. He is not a replacement for Danny Ings. So that's very important to remember. So, I was asked this a few weeks ago, what are my expectations of Jhon Durán? I just want him to feel comfortable in the Premier League. And then everything else will come. But I think we should be very excited. And I'm so excited about the kind of vision that we have to have somebody like this. I believe it wasn't an Unai Emery call. So full credit here to Johan Lange. But Unai Emery looked at what he saw and he liked it. So I love that. I love that because of Brexit, the objectives of getting South American talent now are basically as difficult as trying to get European ones. So you might as well go into South America and see what you can get. So I'm very excited about this one. Finally, we're looking beyond what we can see. I mean, I warned everybody about Lucho Diaz way before he even came to Europe. The same with Moises Caicedo. The same thing can happen with Jhon Durán. We just got to be patient, but I'm very excited.
That is really exciting. And, for him to becoming as a young teenager, to come work with one of the most kind of obsessive coaches in the game, such a proven coach as well, a real winner. That's got to be a very exciting thing for Duran as well, I would imagine. But, a player who's left the club is Danny Ings. And it seemed to slightly divide the fan base a little bit from what I could deduce. I personally am happy with it because I'm happy with whatever decision Unai Emery is making at the moment, really. And I personally think getting back £15 million for him was probably quite good business, really, and frees up funds for Emery to then pursue his own players that he wants. But, where do you sit on Danny Ings leaving Villa?
With you, Frankie, with you. I did a long thread on Twitter about it. And to your point, a lot of, hesitant comments regarding this exit. The main concern, and it's warranted for every Villa fan, the main concern is obviously, we're not that deep when it comes to strikers, specifically offensively speaking. Danny Ings gave us the joint most contributions last season, top scorer this season. So obviously the concern is there. Probably at that point, the best natural finisher Villa had until, they said goodbye and they let him go to West Ham. So I understand that. But to me, and just like I said on Twitter, this is a situation in football that, is about, the rational and the emotional. The emotional is because we appreciate everything Danny Ings has given us. Worked so hard, so popular in the dressing room. We all see what he did when he went with the great mascot Riley, who has autism and ADHD, and he has a foundation that helps and charity. He's just a good human being. So you never want to say goodbye to a good human being who, by the way, bags a lot of goals. Absolutely. But so that's the emotional. But the rational is what you just said, which is he's 31 in July. He is on a very big contract, or at that point was before he went to West Ham. He's injury prone, whether we like it or not. And, the fact that they offered something close to what we got him for in the first place is just good business all around. Because at the end of the day, we have to start thinking about the project. And the most important factor, he's not an Unai Emery type of player. He just isn't. It's just not going to fit, what he wants. Unai Emery likes his attackers to attack space and sort of be multidimensional. Danny Ings is wonderful, wonderful. But unfortunately, because of when you're a striker reaching 31, injury prone, and then suddenly you get offered a certain amount of money by a team that's really trying to fight to stay in the Premier League at this point, then it's a no-brainer. So I'm very sad to see him go. But again, I think the rational beats the emotional in this situation.
Yeah, and like yourself, I think I'll always appreciate everything Danny Ings did, at Villa. Came across as a very good guy, and I'll never forget being in the Trinity Road stand and literally looking straight in line with his bicycle kick against Newcastle.
Oh my God, incredible!
Yeah, well, one of the best goals I've ever seen live, if I'm honest with you. Now, we've talked about the transfer window, but I got to be honest with you, Luis Miguel. I have fallen hook, line, and sinker for Professor Unai Emery. I'm on the brink of writing love poetry to the man. With 5 wins and 7 under him. What have you made of Emery's reign so far?
Oh man, I'm with you, Frankie. God, the moment first of all, nobody expected this would happen. So thank God for Nasa Sawiris to get this done. Unai Emery, to me, is, and with all due respect, because obviously, growing up through the 90s, through the birth of the Premier League and seeing my favorites like Brian Little and John Gregory and Martin O'Neill gave us some amazing highlights, even before him, Ron Atkinson, even all of those managers, Gerard Houllier with his pedigree and stuff. We have never had a manager like this. Yeah. Definitely not in the Premier League era. It just hasn't happened. We've had great managers. We've had very smart ones. I don't think we've had somebody to the level that Unai Emery brings. Never mind the European pedigree that he brings to the table. But you said it yourself, Professor Unai. I mean, I say it's Aston Villa University because, and if you read again, I believe Matt Mayer from the Daily Express talked to Tyrone Mings. You could just, he's talking about how much he's learned already. Leon Bailey loves him. He is everything that we needed. Villa needed a bolt of energy, but they also needed a consistent change of identity and culture. And that's Unai Emery. He is so detailed in every single facet. And that's what we needed. Okay, everybody can really want to win a match and stuff. And, you know, former player managers can really tell you how the good old days they did it and you should learn from them. We've never had somebody so professorial to just literally break down exactly what you need to do as a team. And this team, more so, and this is why non-Villa fans will never get it, because we've never had that. So yes. A Villa player to just have somebody like this and learn from everything that he's doing is wonderful. And the fact that he's doing it in his second language is even more amazing. And his English is getting better and better.
It is,
and then the final part to me, Frankie, is that, you know, if you notice, every single presser, at least post matches, it will either be at the beginning or towards the beginning or the middle. He always talks about the support. And he has a massive objective to not just make this a successful club, but to make it a family. Yes. And I think you can see that already. So, you know, like you said, I'll join you in writing these love letters. I'll even Venmo him whatever he needs. I don't know. But I just think that Unai Emery, you know, there's a long way to go and we have to be patient, and there's going to be bad matches. There's going to be bad performances. Stick with this man because he knows exactly what he's doing.
Professor Emery's Unai-versity. That's what I might be calling it.
I love it. I love it.
I'll be signing up for it. Hopefully get a PhD from there or something. But yeah, I think, you know, what you were just saying there, you know, I think sometimes when you look at clubs like Aston Villa, like you compare them to, say, Man United, a Liverpool, an Arsenal, where those clubs at some point in the last 30 to 35 years have come across a manager who has an aura. And having that aura just raises the level of the entire club. And suddenly it becomes, you identify that team with competing in the top, you know, 4 or for titles and championships. And it feels like Villa just in the Premier League era just haven't had a manager with that aura, really. I think the last manager you could probably say had that was Ron Saunders, who, you know, won the title and, you know, didn't win the European Cup because he left before, but basically it was his team.
Right, it was his foundation, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it just feels a bit like Villa fans, as a Villa fan for the first time, it feels like a manager that you're like, he has an aura, he has something. You hear those post-game interviews and he's describing to you what he did to change the game. And you're like, oh, great, what a smart guy. It's just...
he just breaks it down, Frankie. It's amazing. I was there when we beat Tottenham at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and like you see on one side, Antonio Conte, I mean, one of the best European managers out there, clearly struggling right now with Tottenham, but you can't deny his pedigree. And then on the other side, you have Unai Emery, who did not leave he was on the touchline the entire time, just helping, directing, detailed. I want people to go back to that game, just this win this past weekend against Southampton. And I've talked to Neil Cutler, like, what a ridiculous goalkeeper. Wish him all the best. And everything that he did for Emiliano Martinez was amazing. And you could see it, obviously, against Southampton. But I want people to really pay attention to what Emiliano Martinez did in that game against Southampton. His footwork has elevated so high right now. You know, he's becoming more and more like a sweeper keeper, which was a massive dent in his pedigree. You know, Emiliano Martinez is the greatest goalkeeper in the universe. I will hear no otherwise. I'm just saying that his footwork, his distribution was, I think, one of the weaknesses of his game. It's already so much better, so much more confident. There was a moment in that Southampton game where, like, the press was coming. He comes out of the box. He very calmly takes the ball over, and then a beautiful ball to the midfield. Like it was like he was Zinedine Zidane for 5 seconds. It was unbelievable.
Andre Pirlo or something.
Stuff. Yeah, exactly. So, and that's the Unai Emery and his staff. That's what they're doing, and I'm so excited about it.
Yeah, I like to think Lionel Messi saw that pass and thought, "Oh, he's learning. He's learning." You're right.
Exactly.
There were at least 2 or 3 occasions where Martinez came off his line, and came out the box and took the ball as a sweeper keeper, as you're saying. I've never really identified him as a keeper who comes too far off his line, really. So, as you say, that has to be coaching, doesn't it? That has to be. He's been told to do that, and he might just go from the best goalkeeper in the world to the best goalkeeper in the universe. So that's what I think.
Preach, Frankie, preach.
Yeah, but with what you've seen so far under Emery, do you think that Europe now is achievable? In the next couple of years, obviously, but maybe even this season.
Well, Frankie, as you're talking, why would you want to listen to me? Let me just say what the table says. We are 11th on 28 points. Tottenham are 5th on 33 points. That's 5 points from 5th place. We are, obviously, it's still a work in progress, but numerically speaking, 5 points from 5th is incredible. Is absolutely incredible. Yes, granted, it's a very tight table, and there are plenty of great teams above us as well. But if we continue, then why not? If the table's telling us that it's 5 points from 5th, then why not? The key has to be consistency and winning ugly, which is like what we're doing as well. The most important thing in order to be successful in any sport, right, is to be resilient. And I am seeing a lot of that, especially against Southampton, who, they are dying for points. They want to get out of the bottom 3. They have a new manager. St. Mary's has never been a welcoming ground to Aston Villa, and we got the victory. And that, to me, I think a year ago would never have happened.
No.
So that needs to happen. So can we make Europe this year? Of course we can. Will it happen? That's to tell, because I'm a very big fan of what the Serbia and Brighton are all about. The same with Thomas Frank and Brentford. We can probably take advantage of the fact that Liverpool and Chelsea are still struggling, but obviously because of the riches that they have, you would think that sooner rather than later they're going to wake up. Fulham are going on an unbelievable run, so it's not going to be easy. But 5 points from 5th, Frankie, like the table says it, so let's go for it.
Yeah, it's totally possible. And to just imagine Aston Villa being back in Europe again is just been a long time.
I'll fly over, man. I'll fly over every time. I mean, it'll be ridiculous.
Going everywhere in Europe you can. But just before we wrap up, I do ask, the start of the season wasn't great. We struggled quite heavily, but under Emery it's obviously improved. But who would you say so far for you has been Villa's kind of player of the season? I know it's early days, still a way to go in the season, but so far at least, who would you say has been our best player?
It's a good question, because I've been very impressed with the likes of Ezri Konsa getting his mojo back, one of the best centre backs in the Premier League. I don't care what anybody says. At this moment, he is. His partnership with Tyrone Mings has been amazing. They've done tremendous. Those two you can definitely say a lot about. Obviously, Emiliano Martinez is going to be a favorite as well, but to me, it's Ashley Young. Yeah, it's unbelievable what this man does. The fact that he's going to be 38, the fact that I believe right now, as we're taping on this day in 2007, he joined Villa for the first time. What he continues to deliver day in and day out. You want to put him on the right back as a right back, go for it. Left back, go for it. You want him to push up, go for it. You want him to sit back and protect, go for it. He is, to me, the epitome of a sensei, and at this moment he would be my player of the season, just because of everything that he gives. The fact, by the way, that doesn't matter where it was Dean Smith, Steven Gerrard, Unai Emery, they're all starting him. They're all seeing the quality that he has. That's not a coincidence. He's just a born competitor, a born champion, and so consistent. At this point, he would probably be me. But then, very close to that is the Batman and Robin duo of Douglas Luiz and Bouba Kamara, because Kamara on a free is probably the biggest piece of thievery anybody's ever done. It's unbelievable. He is ridiculous. So that partnership is beautiful. But at this point, I would give it to Ashley Young.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think Kamara's been just a fantastic signing, and
it's ridiculous.
I'm watching him. I'm thinking, what did all the Champions League teams miss in this guy? They must have all watched him. He's just quality. Yeah.
So that's one thing to thank Steven Gerrard for, by the way. I know that there's a lot of criticism that we give him, but thanks to him, quality came in, and Bouba Kamara was one of them. I mean, so it's unbelievable. Yeah.
Maybe long term it will have been worth having him there for the year just for Boubacar Kamara.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I'm also with you on Ashley Young as well. I think he's got that sort of I mentioned it earlier actually, that kind of bite, that winning mentality that I think Emi Martinez really has, and his footballing IQ has to be so high. Such an intelligent player to not just start his career as one of the top attacking wingers in the Premier League, but to have adjusted his game in such a way that he's now a starting right back, or he can play at left back. It's absolutely amazing, really.
I was in my 20s when we were watching Villa with Ashley Young and Martin O'Neill, and with Gareth Barry and Gabby and Nigel Reo-Coker and stuff. Unbelievable. And the fact that I'm like talking to you right now in 2023, and I'm telling you that Ashley Young right now is my candidate for the club's player of the season is ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. What a ridiculous player.
And it's great to have him because for the youth players as well, it can only be a great thing to have a player of his experience and what he's won around them, advising them. So Luis Miguel, it's been absolutely brilliant to have you on. I feel like I could talk with you about Villa until the end of time, to be honest.
Hey, Frankie, anytime, because my wife doesn't want to hear one single word of it. So I'd rather just talk to you about it. Yeah. No, ESPN doesn't want to hear me talk about Aston Villa, so I might as well do it with you.
Yeah, right. Well, I was going to ask you, Luis Miguel, most people who are watching this will have come across you already, I'm sure. But, for anybody who may not have done, where can we find you online and find your work more generally?
Yeah, no, fantastic. So as you mentioned, last time we spoke, I was with CBS, but now I'm with ESPN. So you can read my stuff on ESPN.com, ESPN FC. I also co-host a show on YouTube with Kay Murray on the weekends, all Premier League and the biggest storylines as well. I'm also on Twitter, LM Echegaray. Like Frankie said, just read my last name because there's no way you'll be able to spell it. And on Instagram as well. So I'm everywhere. I don't think there's many Luis Miguel Echegarays out there on ESPN that are Aston Villa fans. So I'm sure if you Google me, I think you can figure it out.
Well, Luis Miguel, it's been brilliant to have you on. And as I said before, one of my favourite Aston Villa fans going. So up the Villa.
Up the Villa, Frankie. Keep up the good work. Oh, Villa, no Villa. Up the Villa.
Like I said, I didn't pay for that. So